This is my third week in Miss Helt's third grade class. I'm really enjoying it because I'm getting to see guided reading in action. I've heard a lot about guided reading, but I've never been in a practicum where I get to see guided reading. This week, Miss Helt and her intervention teacher in the other corner of the room decided to switch groups. So their first group switched, their second group switched, and their third group switched. So they're seeing a new group of students the entire week. And this is good for both the teachers and the students because those students that are getting guided reading are also now getting to see interventions, breaking things down, and that's really cool. And then the kids that are always working on interventions get a little more relaxed feel. They get to just read and get to enjoy and get to ask questions about their book. I always get to sit in with the first group, which is her lowest level readers. It's a very small group, so there's room for me to sit there and kind of work with the kids as well next to Miss Helt, especially because she needs to spend more one-on-one time with the kids. Once the second group comes in, I go sit down and work with the same students I'd been working with before, and we reread their book, ask questions, see if there's words they don't know, how we can break down the words, break down the sentences. And then another intervention teacher comes in for those students, and they work on language. Um, then I begin walking around the room, and I actually will sit down and read books with the students. One of my favorite things to do is read all the easy words and make the student read the hard words, and they think that's so fun too because they get the challenge of reading the harder words. On Thursday this week, Miss Helt had to go to a different math classroom, and when she was in that math classroom, she was running a little late to her guided reading, and there was a substitute in there, and the substitute did not know the guided reading groups, and she didn't know where to start. So I actually got to take over and start guided reading until Miss Help got there. I got to work with two students, both English language learners. It was it was really interesting to see. They worked really well for me. It was really nice. One thing I've noticed about Miss Helt is she has great classroom management. Those kids listen to her so well and they respect her. And I think it's because there's a mutual respect. Miss Helt listens to everything her students say, even if it's off task. At the end, she might say, "Was that on task or should we be talking about this?" But she still listens to everything that they say, which I think is really nice because as a student, you want to be heard. And if you feel like your teacher is hearing you, that's where you get that mutual respect from. Another reason I think she has great classroom management is because when she's working in her guided reading groups, very rarely does she ever have to stop and say, "Are we on task?" Her students are always reading books, going to the library, looking in their bookshop to get new books, and they are always, most always, doing what they are supposed to be doing. She allows them to share reading, so they sit down and read books together. It might be a chapter book, it might be, they look at atlases, it might be a dictionary, just things that they want to explore together. She allows that, which I also think is super cool because if there's a certain set of reading books that the students have to read, they're less likely to stay on task. When they get choice, they're more likely to stay on task. One thing I'm noticing that's really hard for me is my case study isn't moving along. The parents have had the permission slip for over 2 weeks now, and they have not sent it back. Miss Hull is doing what she can. She has had the secretary call, and we've gotten verbal or oral permission, and now we're just waiting for the actual permission slip to come back. And Miss Hull said my student was getting picked up by her parents, and Miss Hull was going to ask them to sign it right there. Another thing is, Miss Hull, my time is from 9 to 10. And that's not a lot of time, especially when Miss Helt is doing guided reading that entire time. I don't have time to discuss things with her, discuss my lesson plan, discuss my case study, ask for things. And then at 10 o'clock, I go right into my math practicum down the hallway in Miss Sedavi's room. So I don't get a chance after to stay after and talk to her. I've come in early a few times to try and talk to her, but she's always doing math. So I'm going to have to email her. We're going to have to set a time where we can both meet and just kind of discuss a few things because it's been a little frustrating for me, and I don't want to interrupt her guided reading because guided reading is such an important part of the classroom, and those kids need to stay on task. Any few distractions could just take away what they're learning and just go away from the entire learning experience, and I don't want to do that. But so far, I'm really enjoying Miss Helt's class, and I can't wait to go back next week.